Detroit Lions 5-1 in the NFC North. We just got done talking the stories. The coaches are on one against the Packer coaches. They went into Lambeau and won. And just the way they won, too. Because they imposed their will on the Packers in the second half of that. They did. I believe that 1,000%. In their mind, they were never not winning that football game. They're going to get all the run at the beginning of the year next year. I would contend they're going to be the betting favorites to win that division. Are they the kings of the North, Terry? Have you seen enough?
They are the kings of the North. Now, here's the key thing. How do they handle that? I mean, they've been hunting everything. We don't have respect. You don't think we can play. Don't play us. Now, how do you handle, y'all coming after us? So it's a different mindset. And they'll probably lose Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator. So there's still things to be had. And every year is different. Every year you have to prove yourself. Now the Lions have to prove, can we handle being the hunted?
D-Mac, you're intimately familiar with this.
Yeah,
trying to fight your way through it.
It's the expectations in team. And is that not, Terry, bring up the elephant in the room, Ben Johnson, who's been requested to be interviewed by the 4 teams that have coaching vacancies. So whether you expect it or not, I mean, obviously the first thing is you'd like to see them run it back with the same offensive coordinator, same thing that we saw this year. But to Terry's point, things always change. So it's got to be that next up mentality. The thing that I love is they're all in this together. I was talking to Maddie Miller, right? Our reporter for WoodwardSports.com that's been down there, and I just asked her. I said, does it feel real? Because to me, it feels like there's an offense, a defense, and a special teams. And a lot of times we hear that there's not really that interaction. But in this Detroit Lions team, it always felt like there's also this whole team together. Everybody's in. And she says, absolutely. You can feel it down there. So in saying that, everything Terry says is right, but I still think that they have this hunter's mentality because they haven't won anything yet, and they haven't got to the playoffs, and until they do make the playoffs and win a game. So just you want to know what the clock has proven in 2 years is that I will not just be satisfied with making the playoffs next year. That win that we haven't had in 30 years has to be next year.
And now and then I feel that I always have to lecture our young people out there who've never seen stuff like this. The Lions have made the playoffs before.
Recently.
Yeah, recently.
Well, semi-recently.
The thing is they just lose all of them, except in 1992. So they should remain hungry because, in my mind, they haven't done anything. Yes, they won 8 out of 10 games, but guess what? They've done that before. They stormed into a position to make the playoffs, but they've done that before. Now, to me, what you have to do is validate. Next season is about validation. If you make the playoffs, if you win a division, if you're making noise, if they're talking about you on ESPN or the NFL Network, that's the validation that they need. Years ago, once again for our young people, the Lions used to make the playoffs every other year. But what they would do, they'd win 10, 11 games and then stink the next year and win 5 games when you thought they were going to do something. So now, validation should keep their hunger going. That's what next season's about. It's all about validation. If they poop the deck and win 6 games, then the same old Lions.
And obviously that depends on the circumstances too. Injury. Like if Goff gets injured week 2, then that changes a lot of stuff, right? But if everybody's the same, all things being the same, especially as this team got healthy, second half of the year they were very healthy, like abnormally healthy.
Right, but they should go into this offseason and see that they did it to themselves because they have that ability to be that good. No matter what happens, it's preparing that. But they haven't won anything yet. You brought up stats yesterday that Goff's franchise record in doing this in offensive stats, and still you don't make the playoffs. To me, that's an issue because what happened at the beginning of the year can't happen again, and you still have those deficiencies on defense. So the interesting part, enjoy the journey and watch not only the guys that are re-signed, the guys who you're going to hear about them maybe making a play at in free agency, and then eventually what they're going to do in the draft. So getting set up, we got to, this is the exciting time, because the bottom line is there's a football team in Allen Park, and it's worth cheering for and getting behind. So there's a lot of things, a lot of questions up in the air. I think the biggest one is what happens with Ben Johnson. But regardless, they're going to move on.
Which I'm going to talk about in the next segment. But until then, because if you look at this division, and Pistons fan 11 says Packers going to fall off, I agree. We've seen that. The Packers have begun their descent. They are asking the tower for clearance to land. It's over for them. The Lions ended that on Sunday night, because I believe that they're going to continue to spiral down, and that's and Aaron Rodgers is a big reason because of it. Especially if he retires, then he'll destroy that franchise. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Pistons fan 11 also says the Bears are in full rebuild. I believe that the Bears are the ones that are kind of going under the radar with everybody, though. Like, they're just writing the Bears off. And you got to remember, they got a quarterback who you call him a running back, call him a running back. He's a dynamic player, Sam Flannel. Is that fair to say? He's a dynamic player.
Absolutely. I don't think that the Bears will be ready to compete next year. They have a bright future moving forward, but I think you're looking at a team that has so many holes, especially on defense.
Right, but they have double the amount of cap space as the second next team in the NFL.
Oh, and that's phenomenal. I expect them to take a leap. I expect them to win at least 6 or 7 games next year.
That's what I think people are sleeping on. Then they do have a lot of holes. Certainly.
Yes.
Like, Justin Fields needs some help, man. Needs some help.
Yeah.
They in a very Jacksonville Jaguars-esque fashion, they can go out and make it rain.
Hey, in the Jacksonville Jaguars, they went from worst to first. It can be done. I mean, the Bears are going to have the number 1 pick as well. I think that they're the sleeper to maybe be second in the NFC North. But I think moving forward, at least next year, the Lions absolutely have to be the favorites. I mean, you look at how well they've drafted in the last couple of years. I expect at least 2 or 3 of those rookies from this year to kind of take a Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of leap into stardom. And from there, another draft class, I think the Lions are set up for success. You don't want what, like Terry said, kind of like that backslide. They absolutely have to validate, because even though they had a 9-8 record, they still didn't make the playoffs, they still didn't win the division, they haven't really done anything yet, and that should keep them kind of hungry to improve.
And if you want to take the cynic side of it, again, kind of like what we talked about the other day, you had everything go right after that 1-6. Quarterback had the best season ever. They were healthy the second half of the year.
Defense turned around.
Defense went from possibly one of the worst ever to being
forcing turnovers.
You had a rookie, pick Aaron Rodgers off 3 times. I mean, like, it's the things that went right were baffling, and that's a big parlay to repeat. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot to ask.
I did a lot of the pregame shows for the Lions here at the studio, and every time they would show the Lions injury report at the end of the year, I was thinking, man, this isn't even that bad. Who's the worst player out? Like Austin Bryant? They were ridiculously healthy, and it showed. It showed how well they played in the end of the year, but that doesn't happen very often. The Lions did have a lot of injury luck, and despite all that, they didn't make the playoffs. But next year, I think it's NFC North title or bust. I really do.
Yeah. Sometimes it's your year. I mean, you can't explain it. Sometimes you get lucky. It's like, it kills me when people say, when there's a lot of injuries, well, maybe they should fire the athletic trainer. He has nothing to do with if you're going to be injured or not. It just happens.
Right.
And the sun shined on the Lions for a change.
And one thing that we did go over here is you have to take into account the schedule's tougher. Especially the road schedule. It's a bit of a beast.
But the home schedule's,
home schedule's
a little
doable.
soft.
This is doable, but we know pretty much the team that we have. We have a 30-point plus scoring team on home turf. But so the schedule. But again, when you're hunting and you want that smoke of proving that it could be a blessing in disguise. So to me, the balance is, remember in Hard Knocks, Dan Campbell says, trust me, boys. This is for later in the stretch. I know we got to do this work here and all this stuff. Well, now he's going to have to find the balance, right? Because what did it do? We were questioning early if the injuries were a part of practicing too hard, training camp, or doing it that way. But we saw that in the long run, it made them healthier towards the end of the season to be able to play. So that's what they're going to try to figure out. Obviously, this offseason, this balance. So I expect something to hear training-wise that it might be done, just a little bit of a tweak to it so that they can be healthy all year.